to HERPath Podcast, the podcast for successful, busy women looking for purpose, health, and happiness. Today, we are going to talk about the Motivational Triad. First, we will learn what is the Motivational Triad, and then we'll explore why understanding it is the secret to all success in reaching every goal you have. And finally, we'll show you how you can use it so you can change your life and you can reach your full potential and create the life of your dreams. Are you ready? Let's get started. So I like to ask, when were you taught how to create the life you truly wanted? And at what point in school did they teach you how to process emotion or manage your mind or deal with compulsions, impulses, addictions, shame, or self-loathing? Never. Yeah, me neither. And change is hard because it's not something that we do naturally or willingly. If left to our own devices, we will stagnate. And it's not because there's something wrong with us or because we're born with the wrong amount of willpower. It's because of the motivational triad. So we have evolved to be motivated only by survival. And our goal as humans have been three things: seek pleasure, avoid pain, and expend minimal effort. And so this type of motivation has worked for thousands of years to keep our species alive and well. And now it's literally killing us. We are no longer forced to survive. Seeking pleasure and avoiding pain is what sends us into addiction, obesity, and chronic disease. Avoiding pain keeps us from moving forward and contributing and creating in our lives. And expending minimal effort has us doing very little to evolve. So the motivational triad explains why we have such a hard time changing our habits, improving our lives, and stepping out of our comfort zone. So number one, our brain seeks pleasure, mainly short-term pleasure. It's why we eat the donut when we want to lose weight, or we buy the stuff even though we have a house full of stuff already, or we watch Netflix instead of working on our goals. And number two, our brain wants to avoid pain at all costs. Any pain, even healthy growing pain. The healthy pain of not giving in to sugar cravings or the healthy pain of doing a workout. It wants to avoid that at all costs. And number three, the brain wants us to be efficient and save energy. And this is a biggie because change requires a lot of energy and our brain wants to save energy. So it tries to avoid change in order to be efficient. That's why it feels like you're going upstream when you're trying to change, because your brain wants to stay the same. It prefers the familiar, the established habits, the automated habits, even the ones that no longer serve us, like automatically grabbing the glass of wine at the end of the day to help us relax, or grabbing the ice cream or sweet treat to relieve our boredom or soothe our emotional pain. So in order to change, we have to adopt a new motivational triad. And we have to be willing to move towards discomfort so we can keep evolving and growing. There's a new way at looking at your personal motivation towards change. That's the opposite of the motivational triad. Number one, seek growth and change. Number two, embrace discomfort. And number three, expend massive effort wisely. And the way you learn this is not by just understanding it. You have to apply it in your life over and over again. You have to overcome your desire to seek comfort with minimal effort because it's an outdated algorithm in your brain. So you have to go against your brain's natural tendency and keep directing it otherwise. The privilege of being a human is that we can use our brain, our own brain, to manage our brain. So this is something that takes practice. And once you have the information, putting it into practice is essential. The new motivational triad has to be this. Number one, instead of seeking pleasure, going towards the discomfort. And what does this look like? You start by choosing what you want in the long term over the short-term pleasure. So if your goal is to, let's say, lose weight, it would look like giving up the immediate pleasure of eating something and allowing the discomfort of feeling bored, stressed, or any other uncomfortable emotion you're trying to avoid. It looks like allowing that urge to eat be there and not respond to it. And now I want to warn you, your brain is going to complain, whine, throw a temper tantrum. You must treat your brain like a toddler, and be ready to start practicing and choose discomfort on purpose. Number two, instead of avoiding pain, you need to open up to it. Our primitive brain associates pain with fear and danger. It genuinely is trying to keep us safe, but there's no danger from changing our outdated habits to new healthy habits. So practice allowing the discomfort to be there. And three, instead of expending minimal effort, we need to recognize the value that comes from making and putting forth the effort to live with intention. Our brains are capable of change, are capable of new thoughts, new feelings, new actions, and new habits. We don't have to keep recreating things from our past. We must stop and defining ourselves by who we were in the past and rewrite those outdated thoughts and beliefs. And to do this, we shift our perspective from the past and look forward to the future. Create and focus on a strong vision of how you want to be, what you want your life to look like, and how you want to feel in your personal and professional life. So, my friends, I would love for you to share how learning the motivational triad has impacted your life and how it has helped you change something about your life you once thought was impossible, and now it's just who you are. So, Nancy, I'd like to start with you.
So when I first learned about the motivational triad, it felt like huge relief because I'm like, everything I'm experiencing is totally normal here. I'm supposed to feel, negative emotion when I'm trying to go forward. I'm supposed to want to just binge out, watch Netflix. So knowing that was all normal was like, oh my gosh, fine, that's great. And then, for me, really identifying what I wanted, like finding exactly what brought me joy and having clear objectives that excited me was huge. And then I started to build habits that brought me pleasure, knowing that I'm working for my future self. So that was huge for me.
Yeah, I love that. That was like relief that you're normal, that something's not wrong, not like
Things gone wrong.
Yes. Yeah, so good. How about you, Gabby?
So it was also something that was a little kind of mind-blowing when I first, learned that concept. And I think the way I interpret it when I learned it, it was living, just surviving, just kind of surviving versus actually living. And so it kind of helped me differentiate just living in the moment on impulses and urges, and which come naturally, versus really thinking through those things and choosing how I want to show up so that I can have those outcomes in my relationships, in my career, my finances. And like Nancy was saying, it felt like a big load off when I learned that this is exactly how you're supposed to feel, because we have been genetically programmed to survive, but our genetics have not evolved as much as our culture has evolved. And now we have so many things that we encounter on a daily basis that pose challenges to us. And our brain is still on just survival mode, fight or flight mode, survive. And some of these circumstances are not life threatening. They're not, not even necessary to be worrying over sometimes. And knowing that your brain will fight you on things that don't make sense. So it doesn't make sense that, for example, this tastes good, let's keep eating it. Your body, will hormonally tell you, this tastes good, eat it, this is going to keep you alive. And then you're going against your natural biology by being, we're not going to eat this because, let's say someone who wants to lose weight, we have a protocol and we want to lose weight, and this is not on our protocol right now. It makes sense that that's going to be a challenging thing to stick to, because we're going literally against our natural survival programming. And so super fascinating to know, no wonder it's so hard, to lose the weight. No wonder it's so hard to get my work done, because our brain is telling us, ooh, that's hard. You're going to be using a lot of energy. It's exhausting. Let's just rest because you are tired and we need to survive for tomorrow. So let's not get that work done now. But at the same time, I want to get this work done because it's important to me. So it just makes so much sense how our natural biology drives us, to feel one way, but our drive to live and not just survive, sometimes it's in conflict. But knowing that makes a big difference.
Yeah, knowing it's like you have two separate brains. You have your survival brain, and then you have your brain that wants to evolve and change and become the best version of you. And when they're in conflict, having that information, that knowing what's happening to you, there's nothing gone wrong, and you just need some tools and practice and discipline and consistency to override that part of your brain, and then it'll be upgraded into a new survival. And that's when they say be the change. That's how you become the new person. It's who you are. Like, just an example in my life is I never thought that I could be somebody that didn't want to drink alcohol to relax. I could not imagine my life without alcohol. And I used these principles and these tools to be somebody that doesn't drink alcohol to relax. I really did not think it was possible. And I'm here to let you all know, with enough determination and practice and stubbornness, it's true. And I really don't even crave alcohol at all. And so it is pretty amazing. And yeah, Elise, I'd like to hear from you how learning this has impacted your life and changed
Yeah.
you.
So like everyone else, when I first learned about the motivational triad, I took a big deep breath and just exhaled, like, oh, thank God, because I thought it was just me that was always fighting against this. So it was a great relief just to know that this is normal, and this is how our brains are wired. I'll say that I really had to come back to the roots of the motivational triad and build up from there when I left corporate and started my own business. Because starting your own business, there is nobody else to motivate you, right? You are your motivation. So I had to really come back to, and I loved what you said, taking action wisely. And I really had to focus on that. What are the actions that I want to take? What are the results that I want to have? And how do I work through, well, I could sit here and do the work, but there's a TV on the other side of that door, and there's Netflix shows, right? And how do I work through the fact that I'm going to do scary things that take me way out of my comfort zone? And it took me about a year of just figuring out all of the different things that I was asking myself to do and that push pull from my brain. Yes, you want to do it because you know that's where you need what you need to do to get where you're going. But your primitive brain is telling you, it's going to cause pain. People are going to judge you. You're really putting yourself out there. And it took me a while, but I do think there are ways to self-coach yourself around the motivational triad. I think, we have great questions that we ask our clients around, how do you want to show up? What would your future self tell yourself? You know, what if what I was afraid of is going to be perfect, right? And I had to leverage those quite a bit. So I'm a big believer in the motivational triad exists for a reason, and sometimes we need to listen to it, right? You guys know that I've had a chronic illness that I've been dealing with, and sometimes you need to listen to that, right? You do need to take the rest. You do need to slow down. You do need to protect your health and your emotional peace. But other times there are ways to work around it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as women, successful women, we are used to setting a goal and going forward and meeting that goal. When it comes to habit change, it's a little different. And we need to remind ourselves that it's not something that is innate for us to change our habits. And it's kind of the analogy of being in the rainforest with a machete, and you are literally like paving a new pathway in your brain, like, but just that your brain is the forest, and you constantly directing away from the motivational triad in our survival brain with your prefrontal cortex. It takes a lot of effort and energy, and it's not something that you do once and boom, you've got it.
Yeah.
It's
And then your
over.
brain's constantly telling you, but that path has been cleared already. Let's just go down that path that we're used to
Yes,
taking. Why are we taking this hard and, bushy pathway? Let's just go where we're used to going.
exactly. I know. Why not? And why not? That's when you have to remind yourself of why. Yeah, like Simon Sinek, I think is how you pronounce his name. Like your why. Like, why are you forging this new path? Like, what is it on the other side? Like, is it worth it? And it has to be. Like, your why has to be worth all the effort and energy to forge that path.
Yeah. And it's going to take time to clear it out. And then sometimes you're going to take the path that's already been there, and it's okay. But having already started those changes and those habits will get more second nature over time, over repeat. And yeah, so I love that analogy that you gave about that path, because I totally can see it.
Yeah, and I want to speak to your point of sometimes we are going to go back onto the easy path several times, like a lot of times. And in those moments, like you said, it's okay, but that's where, developing that self-compassion for ourselves, that instead of beating ourselves up, just wiping yourself off and getting up off, and pick up the machete and go after it again. And knowing that, it's okay to go onto the path that's, well trampled and easy for a minute. That has to happen in order for us to appreciate the growth and how far we've come.
I think it's more than just okay. I think you need to have, it's kind of like a safety net. You can't live in machete world the whole time, right? You can't live in that fear and that stress. And yes, it's good to be there and we need to be there, but we also need to have those safety paths that we can go back to and just be for a little bit.
Yeah, like the two-step, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
1 step forward, 2 steps back. Just like
Yeah.
this dance of life and how we grow and evolve. And if it were easy, it wouldn't be worth it. Like my mom always said, like anything worth doing is not easy. And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the motivational triad or tricks that you have all used? Yes,
Well,
Nancy.
one of the tricks I used, and you guys know I like to use humor. So I like to call my lizard brain, or my amygdala, I call her Lizzie. And then my prefrontal, my higher functioning, is Amanda. So I always know when Lizzie is running the show, and I'll have a talk with her. I'll ask her what she's afraid of, just being very compassionate and kind. And sometimes I'll throw some humor in, like, okay, you're not going to die. It's going to be just fine. And so I think for me, that's helped a lot. Just recognizing when Lizzie is in the driver's seat, and I'll say, okay, you can't drive today. You can come, but you can be a passenger, but you have to be a quiet passenger. So for me, that really helps to identify those two parts of my brain.
I love that, Nancy. That's really good to personify the two different types, and putting Lizzie as the toddler. Like, she's not, I hear you, I love you, I understand, and you're gonna sit in the back seat and be quiet while I drive the car. You
And
don't know
just
how to drive yet.
just knowing that she wants me to be safe, being
Yeah.
really compassionate and curious, I think has really helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's great.
And you're so kind to Lizzie, right? You're never
Right.
mean to her. You're kind to her. And I think we can get caught up in that blame and shame and putting down that normal, our triad. It's normal, right? But we can put it down, and that makes the whole thing harder.
I don't
So
think,
I love that you're kind.
yeah, you don't get anywhere with the critical inner talk at all.
Yeah.
So true.
For
All
me,
right.
what helps me is like the planning ahead of time. Especially like I give the example of meal times. I've, 4 kids, and I don't want to do, fast food or takeout or restaurants a lot. So I have to plan ahead of time my groceries, the meals for the week, so that when I'm driving home after a stressful day at work, my impulse to just get something quick drive through somewhere, I can remind myself, nope, we already have something at home. We already planned for this. And this is what we're going to do. And so that makes it so much easier for me when I have already that plan ahead of time, so that I can override that instinct, that drive to just do something quick and easy. But it's not what I want to do for my family. And so planning ahead of time is something that helps me kind of overcome those impulses and urges in the moment.
Yeah, that's very important. Very helpful.
And I think, that future self, what would my future self say right now? What does my future self want me to do today to get where I want to go in that future? And then having those goals and the ability to take wise actions with purpose, actions with sequencing, so that I'm not just bouncing from thing to thing to thing, but that I'm really purposeful about what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much. This was a fun topic, and I hope our listeners maybe found some relief and got some tidbits to be able to create the change that they want in their lives. And if you found this helpful, please share this podcast. And until next time, take care. Bye. Hey, one more thing before we leave. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are certified professional coaches, but this broadcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice. Okay, thanks for listening. See you next week.